All right, well, you saw Aditi Kinkhabwala there on the field with Justin Fields. He's joining us here now on HQ. Aditi, the emotions for Fields, not just coming in that post-game press conference. He said he was feeling it there, down on the turf. What was it like down at field level in that game?
The relief was palpable, first of all. Let's start with that. You know, actually, I'm going to go backwards. So the day before, we were sitting in our meeting with Justin Fields, and he walked out, and I looked at my analyst and my play-by-play, Arch and Spiro, and I said, oh my gosh, this is not the same young man we saw a year ago. And I've known Justin since his pro day back at Ohio State, and it just felt like he walked into that room carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. He kept insisting to us that he wasn't going to let Woody Johnson's words get to him. He wasn't letting all the doubts. He wasn't letting the noise get to him, that the job is to tune out all of that noise. But you could see that he was carrying the burden of this team being winless. And he got out there the first two series, Mike, not so great. But then after that, all of a sudden, he just started playing faster. He started playing looser. It looked like he was having a little bit more fun. Perhaps he just thought, what do I have to lose at this point? I'm going to go for broke. Or maybe it was that the Bengals defense is just that bad. But whatever it was, he was more decisive. He was getting rid of the ball quicker. The Jets were able to run the ball, which certainly helps. You saw things clicking, and confidence begets confidence. So as things were working, more things were working. And I could visibly see Justin Fields get some of that swagger back that we saw from him at the start of the year last year when he was in Pittsburgh. And I'll tell you a couple things. When he was in Pittsburgh last year, he told us how the confidence in that building was so infectious. We know that that confidence doesn't exist in the Jets building. This is an organization that hasn't been in the playoffs since 2010. It's not an organization that has learned how to win anytime in recent history. He'd also told us a year ago that it was so freeing for him with the Steelers to know that it wasn't all on him, that there were these future Hall of Famers on defense, that there was this head coach who had all this swagger, that there were these other players on offense, that he just had to do his part. That obviously hasn't been the situation through the first 7 weeks in New York. So you saw those differences, but then somehow he put it all together. Again, it was just that he looked like he was playing more comfortably than he had other than that week one game against the Steelers. And Mike, you have to think that he's earned himself another start after this Jets bye. Of course, I will say the Browns defense is nothing like the Bengals defense.
Yeah, the Bengals defense is bad, but as you mentioned, you still got to go out there and made the plays, and he certainly did that. And obviously the Jets feel like they're perpetually rebuilding, and that falls on the quarterbacks a lot of times. So it was cool to see Justin Fields have that moment. I mentioned the Bengals defense. They had a players-only meeting for that defense this week. What do you think the state of Cincinnati is heading into this week's game against the Chicago Bears?
I mean, there's only so much you can do with the personnel that you have, right? Outside of Trey Hendrickson, who really is a star on that defense. Logan Wilson is a captain. He's a longtime starter, but he lost his job to a rookie. He lost that green dot, that headset helmet. They now have a rookie in that role. They have two rookies playing linebacker. And defensive coordinator Al Golden told us, look, we just think that the upside with them, the potential there, the development that is so necessary there trumps the experience that they have in Logan Wilson. But it's not just about missed tackles. It's not just about inexperience. This is a defense that 3 weeks in a row has given up at least 14 points in the fourth quarter. Against the Jets, they certainly looked tired. They certainly looked a little bit mentally drained. It's something that a team now knows it can take advantage of. But I will say this, the Jets had a players-only defensive meeting before they went out to London. They put together 2 better defensive efforts, and then, of course, the team finally got a win in this third game since that players-only meeting. So maybe there's some magic to it.
Yeah, well, losing to the Jets obviously was the bad news, but the good news is there for the Bengals in that NFC North. Everyone but the Ravens, who had just 1 week going into last week, took an L. The Steelers, their second straight L. So how wide open do you think the AFC North is in terms of maybe the Bengals can still go and grab this thing?
Well, I think a lot of it in the AFC North is how long is Joe Flacco's shoulder going to be an issue? Obviously, since we have the Bengals and you know how much I love Joe Flacco, I am rooting for a really, really quick recovery, but that may not actually be the case. The offense looks completely different with Joe Flacco than it did with Jake Browning. That's one thing. You need an offense that is constantly scoring 30, 40 points when your defense is playing that way. That, of course, has a lot to do with what the Bengals' chances are. Now, when we talk about quarterback health, though, Lamar Jackson is healthy. Mike, he's the best player in the NFL. When Lamar Jackson is on the field, all bets are off for anybody else. And so I'm not counting the Ravens out. And look at that Ravens schedule. It doesn't look like they're, again, we don't want to insult anybody in the National Football League. Every week is difficult, as we just saw, the Bengals and the winless Jets. So you can't automatically say, okay, this is a bunch of wins in a row, but the schedule certainly sets up favorably for a Ravens team that is getting healthier, that has Lamar Jackson back. And then the Steelers. Well, that defense is a mess. The highest paid defense in the National Football League is suffering from all the same things that it suffered from in that tailspin at the end of last season. Mike Tomlin is talking about a secondary. He's talking about miscommunication. This is an outfit that didn't even have 11 players on the field on a 2-point conversion. There are players that are paid very, very well that are not playing as well as you would think that pay would warrant. Certain players are looking a little bit older. The offense, while playing better than it has, is not scoring the 40 points a game to make up for the defense. And they've got the Colts coming in, the 7-1 Colts, who have all sorts of confidence, who are playing really well. Jonathan Taylor is being talked about as an MVP candidate. And have you checked out the Steelers' run defense recently? So it's all wide open. Sure, the Browns' defense is playing great. That offense isn't giving us any sort of indication that it's going to stay in games, but at least the three teams, you think, still all feel that they legitimately have a shot.
The AFC North, I think, was one of the more interesting divisions in football coming into the year. Still interesting, just in a little bit different fashion than we probably expected.
Close. Yeah. It's competitive, right? Isn't that what we like, Mike? We like competitive things and we like chaos.
Let it come down to the last 3 games of the season, and everyone will be happy with that fight to get in to the postseason. All right, Aditi, from the sidelines there to HQ here, thanks so much for your insights. Don't forget, NFL on CBS, loaded each and every week. And you get the Colts and Steelers, as Aditi just mentioned, 7-1 Colts. Of course, everyone's got that 4:25 p.m. kickoff, though, circled between the Chiefs and Bills. That is round 10 between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes in their career. We'll see how that goes down. Check out the NFL on CBS and on Paramount+. All right, still to come on HQ. 6 undefeated teams left in college football. How long will they stay undefeated? Brad Crawford's in next.